Welcome to Brown's FM Radio, Pet Stories. A veterinary worker from the Adirondacks shares her heartwarming story of rescuing and bonding with a devoted goose and two spirited ducks, proving that even a small backyard can be a haven for a feathered family.
Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Beautiful. So where are you from?
From upstate New York in the Adirondack Park.
What feathered friends are we talking about today? What kind of beautiful creatures are we talking about today?
I have one goose, Janet,
Uh-huh.
and then I have two ducks, Audrey and Chiffon.
How in the world did you guys meet each other? How did you create this little ducky kingdom, as you call it?
I work for a veterinarian. One of our veterinary technicians does wildlife rehab,
Mm.
and occasionally they'll get calls for wild ducks that aren't wild. That's how I ended up with all my birds.
Oh, that's cool. When you rescued him, did you take him to be their forever family, or were you just helping to see if they could get better? Uh,
No, they were, permanent residents. As soon as they came in, we realized they weren't wild
mm,
animals, and the one duck, actually, Chiffon, came to me with a broken leg, so she had some time where she had to be in a splint, and
mm.
at that point, we got attached.
Oh, wow. How does a duck break a leg?
An accident, maybe a wild animal came and tried to pick her up,
Mm.
or it could have been any number of things.
Okay. Okay. Jackie, tell us a little bit about how you bond with these beautiful creatures.
Ducks and geese will, imprint on
Mhm.
people. I think the geese tend to do so more than the ducks, but they will imprint on a certain person as who's their primary caretaker. I got all these guys when they were little, so just through daily handling and feeding and cleaning, and they bond with you pretty
Mm,
heavily.
it's beautiful. And then, you were saying they follow.
Yeah, they're pretty much like dogs. They'll follow you around the yard. They're curious about anything that you're doing.
Mhm.
They'll get right up in your face when you're in the garden and see what you're digging up.
Now, do you have to push them away sometimes? Do they help you dig, or do they just
Sometimes, just,
That's
um, but most of the time I'll find them a worm and they'll be happy with that.
Oh, really? That's fun. That's cool. And then I think you were saying something about, like, they enjoy music?
Yeah, actually, my partner plays guitar and he'll sit out on the deck during the summers when it's warm out and the birds will just hang out and relax and it's their together time. They just enjoy being with people.
What kind of music do they like?
Classic rock, some classical stuff. They're pretty eclectic in their tastes.
Are there any, like, unique behaviors that you see different in your goose versus the ducks?
The ducks are pretty independent. They're
Mm,
okay with doing their own thing. They'll run around the yard and like when we first let them out, they'll stick around and hang out with you, but after a minute, they'll go and rummage around looking for bugs and things. The goose is very attached, so he likes to be right by you.
interesting. So one could say the goose is more like a dog, where the ducks are more like cats,
Yeah.
possibly. That's
Yep.
an interesting wow, that's cool, that's cool. And then, talking about dogs, you have dogs, right?
Yep, I do have a dog.
How does he get along with these little feathered friends of his?
He gets along fine. He doesn't bother the birds at all. The goose likes to follow him around the yard. Weirds the dog out a little bit.
And then the ducks, they're just off looking for worms and grub
Yeah.
and stuff. Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Now, when you feed them, is there a certain routine? Do you feed them a certain time, like a certain amount of times a day or a week, or like how do you feed them?
I have a it's pretty much just a PVC hanging feeder. So you fill it
Okay,
up and then the food comes out of the bottom. They just pick out what they want.
okay.
So they're allowed to free range if
Hmm.
we're there to watch them. Otherwise, they're in their enclosed run so that they're not out causing trouble.
When you're watching them, what are you watching out for? What's something that you're trying to keep them away from?
Well, we do have a stream in the back of the house.
Mm,
So if they go down there, we just make sure they don't go too far.
okay.
Um, and the house is unfortunately pretty close to the road, so we just don't want anybody wandering where they shouldn't be.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so
And, you know
you're not trying to protect them from not eating the wrong things. It's more just keeping an eye on them in terms of
Right.
boundaries. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
they're pretty good about limiting themselves to things that they should eat.
Mm,
There's always things you wanna watch out for when they're free ranging, especially with ducks and geese. Any, like, little metal pieces that they may pick up is
mhm.
not a good thing.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, of course. And then the food, what's the are they pellets? Are they is
it
it
is a
corn?
pelleted food.
It is a
Um,
pelleted food?
yep, I've tried, like, the whole grain foods and things like that.
Mhm.
If I'm able to ferment it, they'll eat it all, but if I just put it in their hanging feeders, they'll pick things out, and then it's just food
What
for
do
the
you
wild.
mean by what do you mean by that?
What you do is you put it in a container, and then
Uh-huh.
you fill it with water and then food, and
Okay.
then you just let it sit for a certain number of days, and then it helps bring out some of the nutrients in that whole grain feed so that it's easier to digest.
Wow, that's interesting. And is that a common thing among, like, goose and duck parents that they soak the food to, I guess, stewify it?
Yeah.
Like,
I
what is it?
mean, it can be. It's a lot of chicken people do it,
Mhm.
I've
Okay,
noticed, more so.
interesting.
So it just depends on your feeding situation and how you have things set up, whether it's a good idea or not.
How many times a day do you feed them?
I generally just free feed, so they have the feeders hanging all day.
Okay.
Um, I'll do some treats first thing in the morning and then maybe a little bit later in the day.
And then, like, for those treats in the morning, what does that look like? Are they is that a different type of food are you using? Are you using something
Yep.
different?
Yeah, I'll usually do like a spring salad mix, especially during the winter when there's no grass for them to forage.
Mhm.
And then I'll do like the Encore
Mhm.
goose, duck, and chicken treats.
Okay.
They really like those, so I'll do those too.
Here's your Brown's quick tip: label awareness. Check packaging labels for seed composition. Avoid cheap blends with non nutritious fillers. And that's your Brown's quick tip. Back to the show.
That you were saying about mealworms, they enjoy those?
Yeah, the ducks especially. He'll pick at him sometimes, but he's more of a vegetarian. Old Chiffon had her leg broken when she was little.
Mm,
She does have arthritis issues. She's probably about 7 or 8 years old now. So she does get anti-inflammatory medications in the morning, and I do a
gotcha.
glucosamine supplement on top of that.
When they have the little arthritis, can you see, like, a little bump on their leg or something, or is it just
Yeah, she does have a little bit of a limp, and
okay.
she does have a little knobby bump where it was broken.
Oh, man. That's sad.
She
But
gets around okay, it's just she's getting old, she's getting up there.
how long do they live?
10 is a good age.
Oh, really?
Sometimes they will live a little longer than that.
How do you design their space, like, their habitat? What is that like for them to live in?
It's totally enclosed so that when we're not here, nothing can get in
Mhm.
because we do live out in the woods, so we do have predators. It's nothing we can do about.
Yep.
And then they have that space when we're not there. And when we're here, they have pretty much the run of the yard. Other than that, they have a coop, which is pretty much just a shed. And then it's sectioned off so that the ducks and the goose have their own space, which is important, especially when you have different sized birds. You don't need anybody getting squashed.
Did you have that already built before you got them, or did you get them and, "Oh, we need to do this, we need to do that," kind of thing?
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not expecting to get birds. It was like an, "Oh, here, take this thing." So, yeah, we built the coop after we got them just because we didn't have that space prepared, and they were small enough when I first got them that they were still needing the brooder plate, so they were inside for a few months before we got
Ah,
them
okay.
done.
And then what do you use for, like, their bedding?
I use pine shavings. I do a really thick layer of that, generally like 2 bags of shavings, and then on top of that, I'll do, like, shredded paper because we use a lot of paper at work, so I get free bedding.
That helps.
Yeah, and ducks and geese are pretty messy
Mhm.
in their coop because 'cause they're pretty wet birds.
Yeah.
So that paper layer just makes it easier for me to clean out that top layer at least weekly, and then still have all of those shavings in there to keep warmth in the coop during the winter.
you were introduced to Brown's products from a giveaway or
Yeah, from like a subscription box type
eh,
deal.
oh, okay, okay. And then what was it that you got in there?
It was the Encore chicken, duck, and goose treats.
Ah, nice, nice. And did they have to adjust to it or did they go for it like right away? Like how did they react to it?
No, they're pigs, so they pretty much went for it right away. Especially the ducks. The ducks know what treats are.
That's cool. And then what would you tell somebody who was interested in bringing ducks and geese into their life? What are some tips or insights that you would advise them on?
Definitely, before you even start thinking about bringing birds, since they are livestock, some places, some communities, you cannot have birds like that. So you need to check with your local authorities and make sure you're able to have birds on your property. Number two, you should always make sure you have a veterinarian in place because accidents and emergencies do happen, and not all vets will see exotic animals. I'm
That's a good
lucky
point.
enough, I do have an exotic vet probably about an hour away from me, and she's great. I'm lucky to have her. The other thing is, people think ducks and geese, you need a pond or lots and lots of property. That's not necessarily the case. We have maybe quarter of an acre of property, so it's not a huge property. And even though we do have the stream, it's not something that they use all the time. So I do a big kiddie pool for the birds. They do need water so that they can clean themselves and everything like that, but you don't need a pond. A kiddie pool works.
And then I wanted to ask you about the messy fun part.
Ducks and geese, they forage for their food, so they like to dig holes in your yard and make mud
Mm,
puddles.
okay.
Ducks especially are pretty fond of making muddy messes in your yard looking for worms. They usually contain it to one area. It's and we have part of the yard is a sacrifice pasture, I'll call it, even though it's not huge.
Hmm.
So that's where they can make puddles, dig for worms, ruin the grass. I don't care. And then the rest of the yard, they're okay not destroying.
That's beautiful. I like how you give them that space to be themselves.
Hmm.
That's really beautiful. Jackie, you're our first official Goose and Ducks parent on our show. So this is a good first one. I want to thank you for jumping on.
Thank you. It was nice being able to talk about them. They're not very shy. They enjoy their adoring public.
Sitting on the porch at the end of the day, playing soft guitar while the ducks all play. Janet by my side, she's fun in the grass. Audrey quacks along, it's a moment that lasts. Whoa, backyard farm, fresh love. Mealworms and popcorn, it's a treat they love. Backyard farm, fresh love, let the flock waddle free. Sun's setting low, but the fun's still high. The geese and the ducks are staring at the sky. Melodies roll as they gather near. This family time's the best part of the year. Whoa, backyard farm, fresh love. Mealworms and popcorn, it's a treat they love. Backyard farm, fresh love, let the flock waddle free. Those strings, the rhythm's just right. The birds hum along in the cool twilight. Encore treats make the moment so sweet. It's family time when the flock's complete. Whoa, backyard farm, fresh love. Mealworms and popcorn, it's a treat they love. Backyard farm, fresh love, let the flock waddle free. Quack honk, sing it. It's backyard farm, fresh love. Dancing around the yard, it's a gift.